Does that open look familiar? That's the sound and the pictures of the open from the popular 1970s show Emergency.
And live in our studio, we're joined by one of the most popular actors on the show, Randolph Mantooth, who played LA County firefighter paramedic Johnny Gage. Welcome. Does that bring back memories for you?
Yeah, that's some old footage there. That's from the pilot. Once we went into the regular season, there was a different opening. So, I mean, the looks of those rigs, they all look like antiques. You can see them at the museum now. So, yeah, it does strike a chord.
I remember that name, Johnny Gage.
Johnny Gage.
And you're in Tucson now.
Yes.
Tell us why you're in Tucson.
Well, I'm here for the Fallen Firefighters dinner, and which is this is my first year here, and it's just an incredible organization, and it's really something to get behind. Not only me, but all of us to get behind the Fallen Firefighters Foundation.
You do this. I mean, this is a national thing that you do every year.
Well, yeah, but I normally speak all over the United States to different firefighters, to different paramedic groups. Last year I spoke in 20 different occasions all over the United States. It's just a cheap way of me getting to travel.
Well, there has definitely been a lot of buzz about your arrival in our studio alone.
Oh, really?
But for some of us that may have never seen the show, I might be slightly guilty of that. Tell us about the character of Johnny Gage.
Well, Johnny Gage, he was one of the first classes of paramedics. Actually, he was in a second class of paramedics in L.A. When the show first started in 1972, when it first aired in 1972, there were only like around 8. There were 13 paramedics in all of California.
13? Wow.
13. And the rest of the United States didn't even know what they were. When they asked me when they didn't ask me, they told me I was going to play the character. The character of Los Angeles County firefighter paramedic Johnny Gage, the first thing I said was, "What's a paramedic?" Because I had never heard of it before. I thought it was like maybe, you know, a doctor who parachutes onto sick people. I mean, I didn't know. And there were like 8 or 10 paramedics in Miami and about the same number in Seattle, and that was it. Well, what the show did was, when it came on, it didn't invent paramedics. What it did was it exposed them to the rest of the country. And everybody would look up at their dinner tables at 8 o'clock at Saturday night, and they would go, "Wait a minute, what? Is this real? Can this really happen? Firefighters really do this?" Well, yeah, some are doing it in L.A., some in Miami, Columbus, some in Seattle. And it was like letting the genie out of the bottle. All of a sudden, paramedics became, you know, within 7 years, it became just a household word.
So did you do a lot of ride-alongs to study
We
for the
actually
role?
trained. We actually trained with the fire department. We actually had to take the paramedic class. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a paramedic, so if anybody has a heart attack, I'll call 911 with the rest of them. We didn't have to take the written course, but they wanted us to be as proficient in front of the camera as we possibly could be. And then, of course, we actually would go out and with the paramedics, we would actually participate in saving people. So it wasn't just a ride-along. We were actually training to do it.
And what has your life been like since the end of the show? Because, I mean, this is a very famous character. Yeah. Were you still known as this role even though you weren't playing it anymore?
No, yeah. Oh, God, it never goes away. You know, after the show, I did a soap called Loving for 9 years. Well, part of it, they changed the name to The City. I did that for 9 years. I only did Emergency for 7 years, and still, you know, everybody knows me as Johnny Gage from Emergency. And I remember once when I was doing the soap, I was at the LaGuardia Airport, and you know how you know when people are staring at you, and you don't have to really, you just know.
You just feel it. You just feel it around you.
On the periphery. Well, I saw this guy staring at me, and I thought, oh no, you know, he's going to make a big fuss. I know he is, and there was a lot of other people around, and I didn't want him to, you know, make a big fuss. So I thought, you know, well, I'm going to run to the bathroom, maybe time it where I can get back on the plane, you know. So I got up to go, and the guy goes, "Whoa, You're that guy, right? You're that guy." you're him, right? You're that guy. And he's making a lot of noise, and I'm kind of looking around, and I went, well, you know, and he goes, no, you're that guy. And I went, yeah. He goes, don't tell me. And I said, you know, I wanted it to end,
Right.
so I said, Randolph Mantooth. And he goes, no. I said, well, dude, I know who I am.
Yeah,
Right.
classic. Did you ever find out who he thought you were?
No, I don't, because he's making such a fuss.
Yeah.
All I want to do is get on
You
my
don't want to have the
plane.
conversation.
Yeah.
Was it this one? Was it this one?
Yeah,
Was it
right,
this
right.
One? You're just like, okay.
It's like break out my resume. Well, what do you think? What do you think? It was this one?
So did your work with the Fallen Firefighters Association start after Loving, or did it sort of mix in with your professional career?
Well, the Fallen Firefighter, this is my first year here. I'm being introduced to the Fallen Firefighters Foundation for the very first time. But I've been giving speeches on the history of paramedicine,
Gotcha.
on talking to the guys about why they do what they do, and constantly trying to have them remember why they're doing what they're doing, because there's such a burnout with firefighters. You can only see so much tragedy, so much trauma, and after a while you burn out. And so, they asked me to come in and talk to the guys, and I try to remind them of why they do what they do, what prompted them to take up this profession to begin with, and try to remember that, rather than just, becoming jaded and it's like, I can't take this anymore.
Wow, what a great advocate, because you played it, you were complimented by being offered to be a firefighter after the
right.
show, and so you haven't had to experience that tragedy firsthand, but you can still be such a great advocate.
Yeah. Well, I just feel blessed that I'm in this position.
And out of all of the roles that you've played, because you definitely have quite the pedigree behind you of accomplishments, what do you think is the most significant role that you've played? Do you think that it's still?
Well,
Emergency?
yeah, probably. As far as the impact of
Right.
what the show gives to the public. But if you're talking about the largest role I ever did, it was on The Seekers, which I loved that movie. The Seekers was a great deal of fun for me. As far as length is concerned, I played Alex Masters for 9 years. But each role, so I don't compartmentalize them quite like you guys would, because every role that I do, and I just finished doing a film, which I loved this film, and so each new role that I do is probably the best role I've ever done, you know? And I just finished doing a play at, you know the actor, Randy, do you know the actor? It's
I know
like
who
the
you're
Purple
talking
Rose,
about.
Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels.
Oh, yes.
Well, he has a theater called the Purple Rose Theater in Michigan, and I just did almost, from August until December, I did a play there. I never had so much fun in my life. So each role I do it's put on a different shelf.
Well, keep doing them, because we want to keep watching them and hearing about them and following your career. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Randolph Mantooth.
Yes, it was an honor.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And stay right there. The Morning Blend will be right back.